Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Diversion Authority Finance Committee meeting for March 26th. Before we begin the meeting, I'd like to inform you that Brandy Madriga from Cass County is not available today. Mr. Dave Ebbinger, Commissioner Ebbinger from Clay County, will be in for Lori Johnson today. So welcome, David. With that, Don, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Here.
Mayor Mahoney.
Here.
Mayor Carlson. Mr. Steen.
Here.
Ms. Thompson.
Here.
Mr. Ebbinger.
Here.
Mr. Redlinger.
Here.
Mr. Grimberg.
Here.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Here.
Mr. Capitan.
Here.
And Mr. Reitz.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you, Don. Item number 2 is to approve the minutes of February 26, 2025. It's in the packet on page 3.
Move for approval.
I have a motion to approve the minutes of February 26. Is there a second, please?
Second.
I have a second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 3 is to approve the order of the agenda. Again, it's in front of you.
Move for approval.
I have a motion to approve the agenda as distributed. Is there a second, please?
Second.
And I have a second. Been moved and second to approve the order of the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 4, we call on Susan Thompson, Finance Director for the City of Fargo, for the approval of bills.
The bills that need to be approved these are bills received through March 19th. They're listed on page 6. They total $1,344,000 and some odd dollars. The largest one at the top is Fargo, and it's reimbursement of some in-town flood projects. I think it was 3 storm lift rehabilitations. Does anybody have any questions?
Are there any questions of Ms. Thompson?
Move for approval.
I have a motion to approve the bills as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Don, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Ebbinger.
Yes.
Mr. Redlinger.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Capitan.
Aye.
And Mr. Reitz.
Yes.
That is everyone.
Motion carries. Thank you, Don. Item number 5, again, we call on Susan Thompson for the finance report. It's on page 25 of the packet.
Okay, 25 represents historic revenues and expenditures, and then it has year-to-date 2025. I just wanted to point out, I think we've talked about this a couple times when we talk about sales tax, but the City of Fargo and the Diversion Authority are on an accrual basis, so sales tax are 2 months in arrears, so we don't recognize anything in January and February. We record that all in December, 3 in December, so that's why that looks a little odd. Then on page 26 is the statement of net position. Total assets, primarily cash, is $333,191,238. Liabilities are $2,198,757 for a net position of $330,992 and $481. Just a couple items, and there's some receivables and some payables that we typically don't see. It just had to do with timing of when we cut the financial statements off versus when we actually ran the checks. Anyone have any questions on that?
Questions from Ms. Thompson? No one? This is an actionable item.
Move receive the report.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have a motion to approve the finance report. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Redlinger. It's been moved and seconded to approve the finance report as presented by Ms. Thompson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 6 is a cash budget report. We call on Jason Benson, Executive Director. It's on page 51 of the packet.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. As Ms. Thompson noted, when we look at those sales tax, they include the December 2024 taxes. Outside of that, the current month and what we've received year to date through the fiscal year is all tracking on path, and be open to any questions. If not, move to the expenditures, the overall status, level 1 summary, and a few items on this. Overall, with our current fiscal year for the 2025 budget and what those 2025 costs are, that 15.4 million, everything's we're on track. A large chunk of that cost, or the budgeted cost for this year, is the milestone payments to the developer of $233 million. Just wanted to let everybody know that it's not included in this this summary, but we have just recently made our first payment to our RVA, our developer, for the railroad bypasses, which are called shoe flies, for the 3 different railroad crossings where they've installed the bypasses so that they can construct those bridges. Outside of that, that's my report. Open to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. Any questions for anyone? That report is for information only. We move on to item number 7, and that is memorandums of understanding and agreements. We call on Mr. John Shockey, legal counsel. This information is on page 58 of the packet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Finance Committee. The only item I have on the agenda for you today is we have an MOU with Otter Tail Power. There are a number of small lines down by the Christine area that we needed to enter into an MOU with Amura regarding the potential need to either armor or relocate these lines. We're not 100% sure if we will. It depends upon whether and when the Christine Flood Control Project is completed. Currently, there's no task order assigned to this agreement, but because they do have utility easements and interest down in that area, we need to have in place a MURA that allows us, if there is additional action that needs to be taken with respect to relocation, or if it's just simply armoring, or maybe there might not even be any action at all. I'm happy to answer any questions, but we're slowly getting to the end of all of the third-party MOUs and the MURAs for the project, which is really exciting.
Thank you, Mr. Shockley. Any questions for Mr. Shockley on this item? Thank you. Moving on, we're on item number 8. It's the Diversion Authority Board approval, contracting actions, and budget amendments. We're going to call on Mr. Bakagard. Is that?
Yeah, I think
That's an actionable item, excuse me. My apologies. The Otter Tail Power Company is an actionable item. So a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. I have a motion and a second to approve the Otter Tail Power Company and the Metro Flood Diversion Authority action. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mayor Dardis?
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney? Mayor Mahoney?
Aye.
Mayor Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. Steen?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Ebinger?
Yes.
Mr. Redlinger?
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg?
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mr. Capitan?
Aye.
And Mr. Reeds?
Yes.
That is everyone.
My apologies. Item number 8. Again, we call on Mr. Chris Bakagard, page 97.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Dardis, members of the committee. We have 2 contracting items to consider today. I think we'd probably be best to do those separately. I know a lot of times we put them together, but the first item has a couple of steps to it, so I think it'd be better to walk through the first one, and then we can do the second one separate. So for the first contracting item, we're looking at, this is part of our FEMA remapping process. So we are here today to consider a budget amendment for our contract. It does have a lot of what we've been talking about with our state and federal rep agency partners is trying to accelerate our work related to the remapping process. And one of the items that came out of our recent set of meetings is advancing our modeling work. We had originally budgeted this to be a post-construction item, which is when it typically happens in a remapping process. We've worked out with our agency partners to accelerate that work and start it now instead of waiting till 2027. So we had this task order, or had this work set out in our program budget in 2027. So it's beyond the end of all of our current task orders with our consulting groups. So it's a two-part ask today. The first part is to do an amendment to our program budget to move this from our certification line item into our engineering line item. And then additionally to that, we need to allocate an extra $1 million to our current 2025 cash budget for this year. That is part of this request. The second part is to do a task order amendment to add this work to our current scope of work with one of our consultants, HMG. They've been doing all this modeling work for us. Again, this work was beyond the end of our task order, so it was sitting in our program budget, but not allocated to any one particular group and or into our cash budget. So again, I think our recommendation is that we would do this as one motion since they're interrelated and interdependent with each other. Lastly, I do have representatives from our HMG team here. We thought it might be good to give you a quick overview of what the modeling work entails, the work that they've completed to date, and just a little overview of what this work that we're doing with our agency partners. So prior to having them up, is there any questions that anybody has on the procedural piece that I walked through?
Commissioner Pipcorn.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, so the question, so it's something that we would have spent money on, it's just that we're doing it sooner. And then my question is, well, that's a question, but the other question is, will this hopefully speed up the certification in the future to get it certified?
Yeah, the first question, yes, this is work we had contemplated, just we had it later in our program. And yes, this is a part of our acceleration process as a way to, we've been working with our agency partners on the best ways to try to accomplish this acceleration. And this became the best path that we're seeing right now is to start working ahead a bit on our modeling work and try to complete that earlier than we had planned.
Just one more. So do you have an estimate of what the ballpark figure is going to be for when this will be certified? Obviously, that's going to have an impact on everybody.
Sure, and I think the last meeting, after our last meeting with agency partners, we've been saying that it's going to be likely in that 2030 timeframe if everything goes well and we can accelerate. Following our last meetings with the agency partners, that's still the path that we're on, and we don't see a large change in either direction, forward or backward at this point. So we're still looking and targeting for the 2030 timeframe.
Any additional questions for Mr. Bakkegaard?
And then I'll turn it over to the HMG guys and let them to give a little background on their work on the models.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Chairman Dardis and committee members. My name is Greg Thielman. I'm the president and CEO of Houston Engineering, based out of Fargo here. Prior to my current role, I served as project manager for Houston Moore Group on a lot of the work that we've done over the past 16 years on your behalf to advance this project. So just a few people I'd like to introduce. With me here, Kevin Buchholz is the president of Moore Engineering. Greg Thompson is a project manager on the Houston side, and Lyndon Pease is the project manager on the Moore Engineering side. And we just show their years of experience. So a lot of the people you see up here have been involved in this project since its inception. Just some other key people that maybe you don't see as often. Alexa Duseom is with Moore Engineering. She leads a lot of the modeling efforts related to the LOMAR that we're working on. Ben Kugler, likewise. Dan Korf helps a lot with the permitting side. Adam Rude with with the transportation side. So a lot of the people you see here have been on this project for a number of years trying to keep it advanced. So next slide, please. Kind of want to take you down a little bit of a trip down memory lane and just some of the work that our companies have done on your behalf over the years. And that goes back to A lot of the flood insurance studies, you know, the basis for the current flood maps, our companies have been involved in developing either for FEMA or for the states of North Dakota or Minnesota. So our modeling experience goes back to, for myself, into the late 90s when a lot of these projects were started. And then after 97, there was a couple projects more regional within, more on the Fargo side, the north side and south side flood control projects that were looked at. Our companies were brought in to help advance those projects along with a number of other local consultants. And then starting in 2009, when you know, after the flood and the feasibility study really ramped up, our teams were brought on, you know, largely through Mark Bittner and, you know, and his familiarity with our expertise to keep advancing the projects. And we were working on your behalf along with the Corps of Engineers to try to get things done as fast as we could. And you know, thinking back, you know, you may remember the original project started out with the diversion project. It didn't have the staging area. And, you know, our team was working on the unsteady model that, you know, is kind of the basis for the project right now. And those were developed parallel. And then we got to the point where the project was rolled out, the downstream impacts were shown, and it was determined that we kind of had to make a change in direction. And our team was pretty involved in the, you know, the development of the project as it currently stands, you know, going back to 2009. So then in 2012, the Diversion Authority wanted to select a design consultant for the project to work on your behalf. I remember Mark Bittner having those conversations saying you wanted to find the strongest team of locals that he could, you know, bringing in whatever expertise we wanted. And that's when Houston Moore Group was formed back in 2012. And we were fortunate enough to be selected to be the design consultant for the Diversion Authority. And we've continued in that role, you know, developing things like the operations plan and some of the map revisions that you see now. So, you know, a couple of other key parts of this as we walk through here is you know, back in 2015, the Corps of Engineers, FEMA, the state agencies and the local team here got together to develop what was called the CLOMAR Coordination Plan. And this, with a project this complex, that set the framework for a lot of what we're dealing with now. So, you know, having that familiarity is pretty important when it comes to, you know, there's a lot of new players on the FEMA side that maybe want to do things differently. And, you know, going back to what was originally agreed upon is very important to keep this project moving. And then in 2017, the original conditional letter of map revision was done at the time, which I think it probably still is. That was one of the largest CLOMARs that FEMA had ever worked on. And you know, we were a very important part of getting that approved. Then in 2017-18, you know, the project was halted because of the litigation. We were part of the technical team for the governor's task force. I sat in on a lot of the meetings with Bob, Nathan, Jason, and our DNR counterparts as we tried to develop these alternatives that could ultimately get the project permitted. And then in 2020, the second CLOMAR was approved. The P3 process was started. You know, at that time, you know, we had a decision to make whether we wanted to continue working for the Diversion Authority or work for one of the P3 teams. And you know, ultimately, we decided that we wanted to stay working for the Diversion Authority, providing the support that we have been over the years. So we've been helping in development of the technical specifications, the requirements that went into that, you know, reviewing models, reviewing designs, all of those things. And then also providing design support for the Corps of Engineers on the southern embankment. And then that kind of brings us to the current, you know, the physical map revision that we're talking about here today. You know, and then finally, you know, we just wanted to reiterate that, you know, we really appreciate the opportunity to work on this project, you know, the collaboration we've had with all the agencies, you know, with the local staff and keeping it moving. You know, Houston and Moore have designed over 75% of the levees through Fargo-Moorhead, you know, and that's a pretty critical part as well, because these levees, we want to make sure we maintain their accreditation through this process. We're familiar with the local drainage patterns through the metro area. That's another important process with, you know, whatever residual floodplain is going to be there on the backsides of those levees. We provided emergency flood support going back to the 97, 2009 floods. We have a lot of familiarity with the staff at the FEMA regions, the Corps, DNR, DWR on the North Dakota side, and I think that really helps us you know, kind of navigate some of the challenges in keeping a project like this moving. And then I touched on earlier the coordination plan, which is really kind of the framework of what was agreed on in the past and just making sure that we're continuing to move that forward. So on knowledge of design, operations, and details, you know, really what that'll help us do is minimize potential delays, just having that knowledge, what's in the models, you know, what improvements could be made, you know, if FEMA's trying to negotiate an improvement, those type of things. Familiarity with the P3, you know, and then like I said earlier, just we've been a trusted part going back to even sitting in on a lot of the detailed technical meetings with the governor's task force and the agencies. And, you know, and then ultimately we're local businesses. Our people that work on the project live here, will benefit from the project. You know, we want to see this project built, so. With that, I really thank you for considering this amendment and the opportunity to speak here in front of you.
Thank you. Any questions? Anyone?
Mr. Chairman, just
Please.
great presentation, nice and concise. You'll be back tomorrow for the full board.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
There are 2 items under 8, but we're going to take them one at a time, so if we could please, all
Would move to approve A8.
right, we have a motion to approve.
Just to clarify, which motion is this?
This would be the motion to
The
do
bud-
both the reallocation of the program budget, the cash budget, and along with the approval of the task order for HMG.
I would second 8A,
A and
1
A1.
and 2. Oh. Can we do A1 and 2, or are you meaning
Yes.
separating 1 and 2?
Okay.
I'm meaning all of it, 1 and 2.
I'll second.
You're including them all, Mayor?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Just a question, Murray. I got a letter from FEMA recently myself, and I don't know if all the board members are aware, but there's several penalties if we don't do things right, Chris, as I understood.
There certainly can
And I
be.
think it's just important that our basement exemption and different things we have done over the years have worked. I just think some board members might sometimes enjoy, I don't know, Tony, if you received the letter too, just to realize that FEMA is very serious about what they do, and if we don't follow the rules, it doesn't work very well for us.
I
But
too have received a
in
letter.
meeting with them, they're, Dave, to your point, they're trying to move that flood insurance up so it can be done quicker than if we can get it done, so.
So to Mayor Carlson's point, we are acting on A1 and 2, the budget change request as well as the task order 102.
Well then, Mr. Chairman, I would further amend that motion that the task order for the, you pull the slide back up, that the 2.174 million is a motion that not to exceed
Yes,
that
that's
amount.
correct.
Is that all right with the second?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Don, would you please call a roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Yes?
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Emminger.
Aye.
Mr. Redlinger.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Capitan.
Aye.
And Mr. Reeds.
Yes.
That is everyone.
Thank you, Don. The motion carries. Next order of business is 8B. Again, Mr. Buckergaard.
Yeah, Chair Dars, committee members, second contracting action we have today is a part of our demolition work packages, work package 38C. This is to do property mitigation for 2 different parcels, 1093X and 5002. This is again a bid for demolition. We opened those bids a few days ago. We received 3 bids. The low bid was turned in by Linco Company, as you see on the screen. This bid was about 40,000 under the engineer's estimate, and the costs range from about 260,000. The highest bid was over 600,000. So I think we got a good bid on this project. It's a small farm site, so it is one of our little bit larger sites like we're starting to move into. So again, our recommendation is to award this project to Linco Company in the amount of $258,400.
Questions for Mr. Buckergaard? If you look at the packet, you'll look at the map that's in there, it's a large livestock operation.
That's
why
correct.
This is a little bit higher as to what normally we would see. Which- Yeah, but there's a lot of buildings, barns that they were under, so It looks like a closed feeder system is what it looks like, or a dairy farm. This is an actionable item, members.
Move to approve.
Mayor moves to approve. Is there a second? Commissioner Ebinger seconds. It's been moved and seconded to approve Linco and Company, Inc. for task order number 11 for $258,400. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Don, would you please call the roll again?
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson. Mr. Eppinger.
Aye.
Mr. Redlinger.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Capitan.
Aye.
And Mr. Reeds.
Yes.
That is everyone.
Motion carries. Thank you, Don. Item number 9, under other business. We call on Mr. Jason Benson, Executive Director of the Diversion Authority.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Last year, there was several different discussions on the cost of living for employees, as well as just the overall employee between salaries, benefits, that, everything was falling underneath Cass County from an HR and personnel policy standpoint. But the one thing that was still hanging out from 2024 was the discussion on the COLA. And so I've recently done a full review of the COLA, looking at between Social Security, City of Fargo, Cass County, West Fargo, Moorhead, Clay County, and then the Red River Dispatch. Looking at those averages and then comparing them to what Cass County, Cass County pretty much sits pretty squarely aligned with the average. So my recommendation is that because our employees are now falling fully under Cass County for all of the HR and personnel policy, that we also fall under Cass County for that COLA increase. And we would just, for 2025 and all following years, we will fall under whatever Cass County's recommendation for a COLA increase.
Any questions of Mr. Benson? This is under the purview of Mr. Benson, thus this is an informational item only. There's not a vote on this. If you'd continued, question? Mayor.
I think we do have to vote on it because we never decided on a COLA before. But the question is, Tony, in the Cass County, do you ever make salary adjustments in your COLA? Do you make those separately if you find that you're behind in salary, that you make a salary adjustment plus a COLA? Or do you sometimes wrap it in your COLA? Is it purely just a COLA for the county?
Just COLA.
Purely for county. And Mr. Chair, there was a debate whether to average or to just follow Cass County. So I think we'd actually have to make a action item.
This is Rick. I believe there's a recommended action at the bottom of that page.
Okay.
Page 106.
Motion to approve the MFADA follow the Cass County Employees Handbook for a COLA 2025 and all future years.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the Metro Flood Diversion Authority that we follow Cass County Employee Handbook for COLA in 2025 and in future years. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Don, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Eppinger.
Aye.
Mr. Redlinger.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Capitan.
Aye.
And Mr. Reeds.
Yes.
That is everyone.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. My last topic is Minnesota funding, and I may phone a friend with Mayor Carlson since we've been working closely along with Commissioner Mojo and Commissioner Eminger both down at the Minnesota Legislature back in February when we were down in St. Paul, but most recently last Thursday when Mayor Carlson and Commissioner Mojo both testified on House Bill HF 2224, which is the current bill It's sponsored by Representative Joy out of Hawley, and we've got great bipartisan support. And we see the companion bill in the Senate side by Senator Kupek who's sponsoring that, and that's for the $60 million, $14 million for the remaining 7 lift stations in Moorhead, and then $46 million for that for the other funding to fund other projects between Wolverton, Comstock, and Georgetown, and as well as some Clay County road improvement projects to get them over 37 feet. So all of that, we're moving things along through the House, and we're expecting in the next several weeks, we're going to see a hearing in the Senate side. Through the process, we're expecting that those bills will most likely get consolidated into a larger bonding bill, and but we'll see how that plays out. We're hopeful that, and our message has been consistent, that these are projects that have benefit to the larger diversion project, but they're also projects that have independent usage for, like the city of Wolverton, city of Comstock, city of Moorhead. It's a component of the project, but it's also largely independent. And then finally, the work that we're doing collaboratively with Buffalo Red Watershed, Clay County, and the city of Moorhead, that's definitely been noticed down in St. Paul. I think they're used to a lot of cities showing up in our counties and kind of fighting for their own funding, and when they see 3 entities all fighting together to try to get this funding, as well as our message that this is a $3.2 billion project, and this is the last $60 million that we're requesting. So it's been a message that's been well received, and hopefully we continue to go down this path. Mayor Carlson, or Mr. Chair, I'd offer that if Mayor Carlson has any comments that you'd recognize her.
Mayor?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Benson. I think you did an exceptional job summarizing all of the work that we've been doing the last couple of months doing lobbying down in St. Paul. So I have nothing else to add.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner?
Nothing to add to that. I did have a conversation with Commissioner Mojo a couple hours ago, and she's been a stalwart proponent of this. She's been basically living at the Capitol for the last couple of weeks, and I think we have as much support. I hope there's as much money as there is support, but bipartisan and some very good feedback, and knock on wood.
Oh, we appreciate your efforts. Thank you. Any additional questions on the Minnesota funding with Mr. Benson, Mayor Carlson, or Commissioner Ebinger? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Does any member of the Finance Committee have anything they'd like to bring forward at this meeting? Our next meeting is scheduled for April 23rd. We have nothing forward additional, so we call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.